This week on the Media Boss Podcast.
So Growth Mode, my business partner and I launched it about 2 years ago now. As he had a podcast before that was getting about 50,000 downloads per episode.
Media Boss Podcast is brought to you by two of our new partners. One is Pantheon. I can't wait to tell you about them later. And brought to you by Convert and Flow. You're going to learn so much about them. But now it's time for the Media Boss Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Media Boss Podcast. I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to give you yet another great show with an even greater guest. And you're probably saying, Barrett, you always say that. But you also have to say, Barrett, you're always right, don't you? You have to say that because I do have some great guests on the Media Boss Podcast. So if you're just listening for the first time, you're probably wondering, well, what is the Media Boss Podcast? Here's the way I look at things. Everybody consumes information through one form of media or another. My thinking is this: if you don't have your presence in all of those forms of media, you're missing people that could be paying clients for you. So what I want to do is encourage you to get your message out there in all forms of media so you don't miss anybody and they don't miss you. When you can do that, you become what I call a media boss. So that's what the podcast is about. I want to bring people here that can show you how to use media in a way that can help you to bring in those people that want to pay you. Now, I want you to make sure you're subscribed to the Media Boss Podcast. Make sure you're sharing the Media Boss Podcast with everyone that you know. Let them know that you're checking us out and that you're enjoying what you're here. And guess what? If you are listening till the very end, I have something for those of you who listen to the very end. I don't know how many of you like traveling, but I have a benefit for you just for staying tuned to the end. I have a little something for you that you might be interested in taking part of, okay? So just do that. Little tease there. You like that? Okay. Now, I like to start off every episode with something I call the Media Minute. The Media Minute is where I just take some time to give you a tip, some news, some information, something about media that you may be interested in. This one deals with social media. And I want to encourage you to use social media to grow your business, but I don't want you to become a prisoner of it, because recently in October 2022, Instagram users, some of them got locked out of their accounts. Yeah, some of them got locked out of their accounts. They could not use their Instagram. Instagram has just announced recently that they are working on finding a solution, but they really don't know if it was because of an error internally or if they were hacked. So that being the case, if you are running your business and you depend solely on some of that social media, you may get in a situation where you're screaming and yelling, what's wrong with this thing? So don't do that. Make sure you're spreading yourself around and that people can find you no matter what you're doing. So that is your Media Minute for today. So I want to bring on my guest today, man. I'm excited to have this gentleman here with me today because he is, you kind of love this. He is the co-host of the top 100 Apple podcasts called Growth Mode. And can you imagine that top 100? You know how many podcasts are out there? He's in the top 100. He's also a sales expert, an automation expert, and he's going to tell us how he can put all of that together. He's also an author. Did I mention that? He's an author too. But he's going to tell us how to put all that together and how he's helping people in business by using his media to help his business grow. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about none other than Mr. Kevin Snow. Kevin, welcome to the Media Boss Podcast, my friend.
All right, that was the coolest introduction I've ever had for a podcast. I want you coming on all my shows with me and just doing that for all my appearances, because that was awesome. I loved it.
I love your energy, man, because I love this, man. Y'all don't understand how good it is to have a guest on your podcast that has energy. Because, Kevin, I know you know what it's like to have someone that doesn't have energy.
Well, and the funny thing is, I'm actually an introvert.
I am too. I actually am too. But see, people don't. There's a difference between being an introvert and being shy.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm an introvert too. I can go to a party and stand right on the wall and be good. Mm-hmm. I'm good.
And I just watch and listen. For the longest time when I was in corporate America, I would go to my boss. I was in sales. my boss would take me to events with him
Uh-huh.
just because I would hear all the stuff and I'd be like just floating around and listening and staying on the outskirts and stuff. And I had all the best intel for him at the end of these corporate events. So that's exactly right. I have a ton of people who will come up to me after I'm on stage or doing a workshop or something. They'll be like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you could do that." And they've told that to my business partner, and he's like, "Yeah, he can get on stage and he can do it." And it's just, there's a scene from Rock. Yeah. There's a scene from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in that movie where the two Scottish kids trying to be wrestlers, where he literally talks about, when he goes out into the ring, that it's literally him, except he turns up the bass, he turns up the treble, he gets louder, he gets more dramatic. And that's literally what it is. When you're an introvert and you are naturally probably a little quieter and you like to sit on the outskirts and listen, when you get in front of the spotlight, you now have to turn things up. So it's still you. You're just a louder version of you.
Because I used to sing with bands. I would sing lead with bands. And people would go, "Oh my God, you're not an introvert, you're an extrovert." I said, "No." I said, let me mention two names for you. Prince and Michael Jackson, both extreme introverts.
Yeah. Most celebrities, especially like Robin Williams, all those people are introverts, and they are performers because it allows them to put on a mask and do things that they would never do as themselves.
And like you said, it's still them, but they just took it to it. Yeah, and because that's the same with I used to host a morning show, and I'm not a morning person. But I would get on the show, and people would go, "Oh my God, Barrick is so energetic." I said, "Man, look, I'm faking it till I wake up."
Yep. Once the coffee kicks in, we'll all be good. But right now, I'm going through the motions and I'm pretending.
Exactly, and then you won't know the difference. But when I wake up, I said, "Give me about a half hour." Talking for a half an hour is gonna wake me up. But yeah. So I know you would understand, and I love your energy, my man. I really do. So tell us about Growth Mode, man.
So Growth Mode, my business partner and I launched it about 2 years ago now. As he had a podcast before that was getting about 50,000 downloads per episode, where he was interviewing people and getting their stories. It's called Success Champions. And then in March of 2020, he and I launched a organization called Success Champion Networking in response to the pandemic lockdown. We needed to figure out a way to help small businesses stay in contact with people and actually grow their business and be able to keep their pipelines filled. So we launched a virtual networking group. And a little bit really right after that, it was like, all right, so let's do a podcast. And we brought that out as a way to provide content for our members, but then also promote what we had going on, but then also help other entrepreneurs figure out the stuff that no one helped us figure out and that we broke and then had to fix. And so it's really the bulk of our lessons are all talking, or bulk of our episodes are all us talking about the lessons that we learned, growing our businesses and all the things we screwed up and how to do it right the first time, and what to listen to and think about and all that stuff, so that when you get to that position, you're in a better spot and you've already been thinking about it, as opposed to just going out and breaking stuff.
Oh, Kevin, I love that. And see, the thing I like, and I hope you guys were listening to what he was saying, is that he and his business partner realized that there was another tool they could use using media to reach an audience. And this is something I'm trying to get across to everybody, is that you don't have to stop doing business. You can increase your business by using media, because those are people that they're listening to your podcast, Kevin, that they probably were already podcast listeners, but they didn't know you there.
Yep, exactly. And for business owners, podcasting it's an awesome way to get content. because you can take that audio and video and you can repurpose it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
We take that one episode and we turn it into a blog post. We send it, we take the transcript, give it to our copywriter and say, all right, go write us a really cool blog. We take our producer takes our video and cuts it down into snippets for both me and Donnie that we can use on, reels on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Occasionally we do some longer videos that we'll do for promos. And then it becomes social media posts, and it's, all these different things come from that one 20-minute episode.
I love it. And that's, well, you're preaching to the choir. I tell people this all the time, because one of the things that I hear from people, and I don't know if you hear this too, but I hear people say, I don't know if I'm going to have enough content. And I'm like, you don't have to create new content if you already have content. You can just repurpose it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm in a bunch of podcast groups on Facebook, and everyone's like, "Oh, how do I monetize my podcast?" I'm like, you use it to grow an audience that loves your stuff and then gives you money to do things for you. That's how you monetize your podcast. Everyone's so focused on, I want to sell ads and I want to do this. How about you put out great content that people listen to, and then they want to give you money so you can do your thing that you're an expert at for them?
Yeah, and I think, and I'm glad you said that. I think a lot of people are looking for direct pay from putting out their content. And it doesn't necessarily come directly. You attract those people with your content. And if your content is good, like Kevin said, they will want to do business with you. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and there's so many podcasts out there right now. To be in the top 5% of podcasts, you have to have it's less than 1,000 downloads per episode, and you can be in the top 5%. So you have to think, the people who are actually spending really good money on podcasts, they're looking for Joe Rogan's, the big dogs, who are going to bring them hundreds of thousands of listens, and it's going to be worth their revenue and worth their money to pay them to do it. We don't do sponsors on our podcast because we think it actually dilutes the message, because now we have other people coming in and saying, oh, you need to use such and such, when we may or may not actually use them.
Right.
And it allows us now, what we tell people to do, and here's what we do, is, well, we sponsor our podcast. It's, it's sponsored by Success Champions or Time on Target or whatever thing we're promoting. So when we got the Badass Business Summit, we will use that to, this episode's brought to you by the Badass Business Summit, blah, blah, blah.
Amen. Yeah.
And now we're promoting ourselves.
I do the same thing. I do commercials in my podcast of my business.
Yep. That's exactly what we do based on what's going on during the year. It's, if Donnie or I have a new book coming out, we'll promote that during the mid-reel or end-reel credits, all that type of stuff. But it's always our stuff. It's not someone else's thing that we're bringing in and sharing now our airtime with. So
yeah. Now, do you have an idea on how your podcast might have affected your business?
Oh, it's for me, it was very much a authority building thing. Okay. I've never done a podcast before this one. So Donnie's like, we're going to do a podcast together. I'm like, oh, we are? Okay. Sure. All right.
Okay. What's a podcast?
It's funny, if you listen to the initial podcast where Donnie and I are talking compared to ones now, my personality on it changed a lot because I figured out how to do it. And so the initial ones were really bad, but for me, it was all about building authority and getting out there and people saying, all right, so this guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to sales and sales automation and all this stuff. And now it's allowed me to get on different stages. I've been able to speak at the Digital Summit. I'm able to speak at other big conferences where now my voice gets louder. Yeah. And that's really what it is for me. It's a way to amplify what I say and to help people find me.
And see, Kevin, one of the things that I think people may not see, but I see it, is that media and automation go hand in hand. And I want to find out from you, talk to me about the sales automation and how that's working, how you work with that.
So that's my big focus for my business, is helping people figure out how to inject technology into their sales process so that it feels authentic. The prospects going through the sale are not getting turned off by it, and it's actually helping them accelerate how they close and how many businesses they close into new clients. My history's all been B2B sales. So
Okay.
I sold technology for 20 years. I did some business coaching. And then when I launched Time on Target, at least this version of Time on Target back in 2012, I was doing consulting and I was going into businesses and actually helping them launch sales teams. So it'd be a tech firm or another business who had some growth and some success. Now they're at their first plateau and they're ready. All right, so we're ready to scale. We're going to bring on a team. And they would hire me to actually come in and kind of be like a VP of sales for hire to help them field their team and build their playbook. So instead of just going out and hiring people, I would actually help them figure out, all right, what's the job description actually need to look like? How do you actually interview and hire salespeople? Because it's different than hiring a coder or a HVAC tech or someone that's going out and doing the work.
Yeah, it is different.
How do you manage them? How do you onboard them? How do you train them? What does the sales process look like? So over 6 to 9 months, we go through this whole process with them. And really, at the end of it, they'd have their playbook for how to run their sales team and how to run their sales program. And they'd have 2 to 3 salespeople that were onboarded and now out selling for them. So what part of that, when I was going through it, and I discovered that I loved the process piece of how to sell and how people make purchasing decisions, and the other stuff I didn't enjoy. So we slowly got rid of all the other things in that consulting gig and really focus on prospecting and, or excuse me, on the process. And then that was my next aha. I was like, Kevin, you're an idiot. Why are you outsourcing all the automation stuff when you know how to do it? Because you're doing it all for you. I was already building all these processes and integrating things for my company. But for my clients, I wanted to be the good consultant and be agnostic. And so I bring in third parties to do stuff, and then they get paid thousands of dollars to do that. And I'm like,
that's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I'm not actually helping my clients by being agnostic. I'm costing them money, and
you're not helping yourself either.
Oh yeah, totally. But I'm also not helping them make the right decision because I'm not I'm an expert at this. I need to be getting them on this so I can actually help them and be that person for them and get everything set up right and faster. So that's when we really started focusing on the automation piece and how you utilize email and CRMs and scheduling and all that stuff. So it talks together with each other correctly, and it's a seamless integration for the prospect. So it's simple for them to use, and it helps them make the right decision faster.
I love that, man. I love that. So now, as far as doing that with automated, what kind of results have you gotten for people?
Well, it's cool because I don't do a lot of like the lead nurturing stuff. That's usually an add-on after we get a process built for them. It's like, oh, can you do some lead nurturing and lead magnets? Yeah, we can build those for you too. So for us, it's really working with outside teams where they're selling, and we're seeing people actually shorten their sales cycle by 20%.
Oh, wow.
And increase their closing rate as well, because we're really dialed in. They're really then dialed in on what's going on in their prospect's mind at each step of the process, and making sure that we're giving them the right answers at the right time. So that's the key thing. Most salespeople are really focused on the big yes at the end. Mm-hmm. And when we automate a process, it forces them to be focused on what the yes is right then and what that closure looks like for that step. So we can move them to that next stage. And at the management level, they're now able to see really what's happening at each step of the process and be able to say, all right, so we have a drop off. We have a ton of people that get here, but then don't ever close. Why?
I love it. I love it.
And then it allows them to dial in and get much more specific on, all right, so let's work on this. As opposed to most of my clients, before they actually had a documented process, didn't actually know what was happening each step of the way. So if they had a low closing rate, they didn't know where to start looking. And it was really kind of like, let's try this and see if it works or not. And then it doesn't. It's like, oh, now we're going to try this. And there was no real good way for them to be able to test and improve their process in an iterative manner.
That's cool. That is so cool. So, guys, guess what? We're talking to Kevin Snow, and I'm learning a whole lot. I like sales, so it's something fun for me to listen to hear him talk about. So I like sales. I always say, Kevin, I said people that say they don't like sales are lying, because there's no one who's ever made a sale and said I hated that.
Yep.
Which it is that you don't know the sales process and how to go through it. That's what it is. That's what you may hate, but nobody hates sales. So anyway. We're going to take a break, guys, and we're going to come back with more of Kevin Snow right here on the Media Boss Podcast. So stay right where you are. How are you going to learn everything you need to know about starting a podcast? Well, at the Create Your Podcast Weekend, we put it all in 2 days and help you get your podcast going by next week. That's right, by next week. All you have to do is come to the Create Your Podcast Weekend and let us show you how to get your podcast up and running. We will show you how to attract listeners. We will show you how to get people to pay you for your products and services. What products and services? The products and services we show you how to create, all at the Create Your Podcast Weekend. All you have to do is go to createyourpodcastweekend.com and get registered today. And we have special bonuses. Some of you will even get us to give you the equipment to start your podcast. That's right. We're going to give some of you the podcasting equipment to get started. Go to createyourpodcastweekend.com. That's createyourpodcastweekend.com and get started on your podcast by next week. Starting a podcast can be a daunting task. There's a lot that goes into it, and you're probably wondering if you're able to handle it. Well, why don't you just take 2 days and let us teach you how to do it at the Create Your Podcast Weekend. That's right. We're going to show you all the aspects of how to start your podcast, how to keep your podcast going, how to attract listeners, and how to make money with your podcast. CreateYourPodcastWeekend.com. Get registered right now. Do you have a podcast? Would you like to have it heard by more and more people? Well, Pantheon is the way to go. Unlock the right mindset and tactics with our program. Create momentum with repurposed content. Get paid to build your business. And with Pantheon, we'll even show you how to have a team around you that gives you a community of encouragement. Check out Pantheon today.
You and me together, we could be anything.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Media Boss Podcast. I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews, and we are having a ball here on the Media Boss Podcast with my friend here, Kevin Snow. We're having a good time. Kevin, so am I correct in saying you're an author too?
So I am a contributing author for a book, and it was, it's been like over 10 years since I did that. But actually my business partner and podcast co-host and I are working on a book that's going to come out next year. So.
Okay. And it is called?
We don't have a name for it yet, but we are working on, we both have a really distinct way of selling. And it came from being a introvert and not being able to do all the traditional closing techniques, because it comes out really slimy from an introverted person. So I couldn't do the takeaway close and the alternative close and all those stuff. It just didn't come out well. Yeah. So we're building a process and replicating how we sell called informative sales.
I like that.
And it's really focused on how you get in front of a prospect and you teach them. And you leave them in a position where they have the answers on how to solve their issues, and they literally are able to say, "Wow, that was awesome. How do I work with you?" And that is one of the big things that, especially for me selling sales automation, which is kind of, this big air thing. There's nothing tangible about it that they can touch and feel. When I meet with a client, we dive deep into what their actual issue is. And then I actually, when we leave there's usually some process already developed for them for what they can do and how they can utilize, email, or we've looked through it, how they can scale their business and what that looks like and the things they need to support it. And they leave with all this information. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. How do I get you to do this stuff? And that's really the goal, because I don't chase. I hate follow-up. Right. So I just don't do it. And if, and I want, it either needs to be a hell yes, let's do this, or it's a hell no for me. And I usually use a different language, but I'm not sure how your audience would feel about that. So we're just going to go with the hell word today.
Yeah, let's just go with that and leave it at
So, but, and that's really what I want. I want them at the end of me saying, oh my God, this is amazing. How do we do this? How do I get you on board to do stuff? Awesome. And I figure if I give them all the stuff, they're like, awesome, great. I'm going to take this and run with it. Perfect. You're a DIYer. You're not my client anyway. So it's a way for me to disqualify them early and not spend a lot of time chasing when I could be working with other prospects.
I like that. I like that a lot. So Kevin, before I let you go, man, is there something that you're working on that we can support you and our audience can support you with?
Wow. So we just finished the Badass Business Summit. So we're kind of in a quiet spot where we're just kind of recovering, figuring out what our next big things are right now. So, I'm really focused on client work right now and helping people figure out how to do sales automation. So I actually have a gift for your client, for your listeners, that's going to help them figure out how to sell better. Yeah, I love free stuff too. So, and it's going to get them some other cool stuff too. So if they text the word sell smarter to 612-429-4298, I'll send them a list of questions that they can use to help map out their client's buying process and a guide to what content is most effective for each step in the sales process. Once they get that, they'll get a couple other follow-on texts from me. Don't worry, we're not going to text them like every day for the next year, but they'll get a few texts. One of them is going to be inviting them to join my automation group on Facebook so they can actually ask questions, interact with me. And then it's also going to give them a link to subscribe to Growth Mode and start listening to that on a regular basis.
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you being a part of the Media Boss podcast, my man.
Oh, thank you for having me on. This has been a really cool conversation.
It really has. I learned a lot. So thanks again, everybody. That's Kevin Snow. Make sure that you take him up on his free gift. And those of you listening right now, I have a free gift for you too. I want you to go to www.5waystoPayingClients.com. I hear people talk about getting clients all the time, but they're not getting paid. So that's the number 5 waystoPayingClients.com. It's my complimentary training from me to you. Now, remember, I told you that we have something for you if you're going to stick around to the end. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to see who sticks around and wants another gift from me. Y'all getting gifts all day. So just stick around, and we got another gift right after this break. Podcast? Would you like to have it heard by more and more people? Well, Pantheon is the way to go. Unlock the right mindset and tactics with our program. Create momentum with repurposed content. Get paid to build your business. And with Pantheon, we'll even show you how to have a team around you that gives you a community of encouragement. Check out Pantheon today. right, everybody, welcome back to the Media Boss Podcast. I told you Kevin Snow was great. I never lie to you guys. I never lie. I told you he was great. And guess what? We're going to keep the greatness going, because if you want to support the Media Boss Podcast, go to patreon.com, /Media Boss Podcast. And we have some nice perks for you if you support the podcast. And I just gave you guys a free gift. If you want to get my training on how to get some paying clients, go to www.5waystoPayingClients.com, 5waystoPayingClients.com. Now, if you are really serious about becoming a media boss, I mean, you want to learn about podcasting, you want to learn about writing books, you want to learn about magazines, you want to learn about social media, you want to learn about film, you want to learn about Roku television, come to my 5-day challenge. It's called the Make Money from Media Challenge. Make Money from Media Challenge. It's going to be 5 days. We're going to go through all of those things. It's not an all-day thing, so it's only a few hours. So you may want to get in where you fit in right now. Go to www.makemoneyfrommediachallenge.com, makemoneyfrommediachallenge.com. Get registered today. If you register as a VIP, you get a little extra something for you. So if you want to come, and if you think that you deserve the best, then come in as a VIP. We have something for you. If you want to learn how to get a podcast going, text the word podcast to 929-244-4323. Text podcast to 929-244-4323. We'll show you how to get a podcast set up. We'll even show you how to have one done for you. How about that? Now, last but not least, you heard me mention about something for you. If you stick around to the end, well, what I want you to do is subscribe to the Media Boss Podcast. But if you go to Apple or Spotify and leave us a good review, and you screenshot that and go to our Facebook group, which is Media Boss Club, you come on and join the Media Boss Club, post that review in the Facebook group, I'm going to send you a $100 hotel voucher that you can use anywhere in the world. You get to save on hotels anywhere in the world, up to $100. So what I want you to do is just go ahead and leave your review for us in the Media Boss Club, and we would look forward to seeing you on a vacation maybe somewhere. How about that? So we're about to get out of here. Now, you all know we get out of here on the Media Boss Podcast different than anyone else. Those of you who know, you know what we do. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Media Boss out.